Hey there puzzlers, my name is FLEB, and today I'm going to be doing a video that's been requested quite a bit recently, which is a walkthrough of a more advanced Starbattle puzzle. Before, I made a video on beginner Starbattle puzzles, which should be available here, where I'm pointing. If you're curious about the rules of the puzzle, or beginner tips on how to get started, that's the best place to start. Today's puzzle is by Thomas Snyder, and it's from his website GM Puzzles. Without further ado, let's get started. To get started with solving this, first note that this is a 2-star puzzle, which means it's going to be 2 stars in every row, every column, and every outlined region. In order to look for a place to begin, you might search around the puzzle a couple different places. What stands out to me is this here. This whole column is filled by this region. That means it has 2 stars, which means that region is filled. So we can mark off all the other squares. Now my eye is drawn towards these 2 columns here. These 2 columns have very few regions in them. Most of it is taken up by this region, which can have at most 2, which means at least 2 other stars need to be in these 5 squares. At most 1 star can go here, so 1 star definitely has to go here. When you have a set of 3 like this, you can mark off squares over here, because if this was filled with a star, it would eliminate all 3 of those squares. This is the first part in the puzzle where there's a really difficult piece of logic. I actually tried to find something down here for a while, but after I couldn't find it, I went to other parts of the puzzle, and couldn't really break in. After about 3 or 4 minutes, I think, I went back down here and figured out what was going on. The fact that we can fit at most 3 stars here presents us with an interesting question. What if all 3 are filled in? If all 3 are filled in, we would have a star here, and a star here in one of these 2 squares. Since there's at most 1 star made in these 2 columns, we would also have to have a star here. And now these 2 are diagonal, which can't happen. As a result, we cannot have a star here in this region. So let's erase those partial markings there. So there's no star here. We know there's going to be 2 stars here, 1 there, and possibly another here. What if both stars were here? Like this. Well, that would knock off this entire column, and it would knock off these squares that I'm going to just lightly mark in. That would leave only 1 space left in this region for a star, but this region has to have 2 stars. As a result, we know we have to have a star here, that we cannot have 2 stars there. I'm going to erase the rest of the partial marks. Okay, so now we have 1 star here, 1 star here, and 2 stars here somewhere. There can be at most 1 in this column, so there must be at least 1 in this column as well. We've done pretty well so far, but now we need to think a little bit more about the rows. If we look at these 2 rows here, there's at most 2 stars in this outlined region here, and since this overall has to contain 4 stars, because it's 2 rows, these remaining 3 squares have to contain 2 stars. 1 there, 1 in one of these 2 squares, and 1 here. That gives us quite a bit of information. Now that we have the 2 stars in this column, we can force out the rest. We know we have a star here. We know we have a star here. That's 2 stars in this region, so we can block off the rest of this region. And since we need 2 stars in this row, that means that we need to have a star here. If we had a star here, it would block off both squares, so the other star must be there. That gives us 2 stars in this column, and we can block off the rest. We must have a second star here, and now we have to fit 2 stars in this column. There's only one way to do that. We also now have 2 stars in this row. Well, that's nice. Now we start to see the theme of the puzzle coming into play. The theme of the puzzle is cornered, and at this point what we've basically done is create a smaller Starbattle, with a few stars outside to give us more information. This is where the second difficult step of the puzzle comes in. If you look at these two rows here, this region is entirely contained within it. We also have a star here. In addition to that, in this leftmost region, we need to fit 2 stars. At most, one can be outside of it, so one must be inside of it. 1, 2, 3, 4 are the 4 stars that are in these 2 rows. That means these cannot contain stars. There must be a star here, and the remaining 3 stars are 2 in this region and 1 in this one. Similarly, we can take a look at these 2 rows, right underneath the 2 we looked at before. This region must have 2 stars within it, there's already a star in it, and there's another region here which must contain at least 1 star. Those must be all 4 stars, so we need to have another star here. We've now filled this row with its 2 stars. By eliminating that square, this region is very small and must contain 2 stars. One has to go here. That gives us another one in this column, and the other must go here. We have to fit 2 stars within this row. There's only 3 spaces left. There's only one way that can go. We need to fit a second star in this region. There's only 2 spots left, and that tells us something more about the puzzle. In this row, only 1 star can go in this column, which means the second star in this has to go here. That fills in this column. At this point, we're mostly just working our way around the puzzle. We've sort of solved the most difficult steps, and we're just trying to figure out where the rest of them go. We need to have 2 in this row. That eliminates that square. We need to have another star in this column. There's only 2 squares left, which eliminates these 2 squares. That leaves only 1 square left in this column. That places some more stars. This row is now filled. A star cannot go here. If a star went here, it will eliminate the remaining squares in this region. And similarly on the bottom. So we can mark off both of those squares. And we know that since there are 2 spots left here, they're going to do something like this, but we don't necessarily know which order they're going to be in. That gives us 2 stars in this column and 2 stars in this column. If a star went here, it would mean both of these stars had to go down like this, and we would have 3 stars in a row. So a star cannot go here. That tells us the rest of the puzzle. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this look at a more advanced Starbattle. It's mostly the same logic that you would see in the basic Starbattle, but some of the things that come up quite a bit more are there's 2 rows where there's a piece of logic, and finding those 2 rows is the hard part. I advise looking for clustering of clues, looking for places that look constrained. Small regions in Starbattle are really important. In the original Starbattle video, I said that I was going to use it in a puzzle that was coming up. I still haven't made that video, but it's coming soon. It's going to be a puzzle hunt puzzle, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and as always, happy puzzling!